All right. So let's start. I think my audio is working quite well because I tested it, but in any case. So continuing on from yesterday's, I actually figured out how to fix this external errors thing, external warnings. So I just had to set up this flag here, which doesn't treat the external files as, oops, this is supposed to be yes, external angle brackets and header warning level as 0. We turn off warnings that are external to us because we don't care if Vulkan HPP has unsafe code in there because it's not my job, right? And the other thing is I leave exception handling open, but I will not use exceptions, which means even for Vulkan itself, I will be turning off exceptions. So first things first, it's just hashtag define VKHPP no exceptions, but we can check that VKHPP no exceptions. So Vulkan HPP is built so that people can use it as they want. One of those things is exception handling. So we can turn those off. Let it get there. Yeah, right there. So if I turn off exceptions, it will actually compile in a different way. So instead, the result type becomes, a result value. So that comes in with a result itself. So we can result, and we can do std die. So we put in the instance and I think it's the result and then the instance. Result followed by the instance. And there we go. So this has tied the values. So we can now check if the result is valid result or not. Another thing we can do is actually use std except expected, start expected, but start expected is a C++23 only thing. We can use C++23, nothing really stops us from it because I'm not doing any industrial work, so I don't care if like the compiler support is perfect or not. So we move to std C++23. It's a preview, but gets the job done, and we can search for expected. So yeah. Again, if the CPP, HPP, Vulkan HPP, CPP version is less than 23, start expected is not available, but it still allows us to use external libraries like TL expected. So TL stands for Tartan Llama. I'll just look through that anyway. So Tartan Llama, Cybrand, expected there. So this is for C++ 11 to 20, while if you have anything better than that, just use start expected, right? Like, so this is start expected. You had TL expected. And, chain together mid fail. Hold on. Interesting. So start TL expected still has benefits over start expected. And this is more or less like Rust, right? However, in this case, we mostly just want to unwrap and check if it's an error or not. And we do have benefits in start expected that, function in start expected let us do these operations, monadic operations as they're calling it, 23, right? Macro is not used. I don't care. Though this is, I think it's automatically defined inside, right? We'll see. Does this create std expected? Is the question. Auto inst result value type. Of course, it's result value type, but what is the result value? Result value type is there is for no exceptions. Oof, that opened a lot of files. Anyway, Blazor CPP is right here. So we can actually just define it, define Vulkan HPP, CPP. Wait, that was different. HPP expected one. And This would be instance dot result and not value. No, that is still the result type. So how come is this not working? Eh? So, okay, wait, that's a different one. Expected, unexpected, expected. Sometimes you have to go through the spec and stuff like this to figure out things, right? Expected. Perhaps we do have to set this. No, that is fine. This CPP version 23. Build solution. Let's see if it actually gives us. It failed. Warnings or errors. No, take an address that doesn't have static storage direction. Because this is a const expression. And I cannot take a const expression where the, where the other thing's address is not a static one. Well, no, this says it can be made into const expression, but if I do that, it's also going to be static storage. We don't really need it to actually be static storage because it will never really resolve itself. But the question here is why is create info not letting me have the find Vulkan HPP expected std expected and unexpected as std unexpected. This should work generally. Let's see dot. Nope. It still leads to the same results. Okay. Why? Expected. So today is going to be more or less some amount of Vulkan setting up, some amount of getting the windows to work, window opening and closing thing, and get instance actually loaded up. User reflect, we don't need it. Stirred expected. Aye. This totally doesn't seem to be helping us. But we can actually check why this happens. Expected. That's not here. Okay. Welcome HPP use expected. None of this actually leads to any answers, yeah? Well, this is really helping. Anyway, let's look at the Stack Overflow. Maybe we just leave the exceptions on. Critical keys only. Game developers turn off exception handling. This is more or less the reasons why we are using this. Fragmentation create a new descriptable, you see? We will not be using Maybe they have something about expected. But it's not excited to find and What a pain. Most of those we don't actually want to care about. We just use the result value as it is. Let's not bother with all of this. We just keep the no exceptions. We keep the C++, let's leave it to C++23. And we have this. We will assert on failure. So that is still a macro that I will define. VK check, where we can just say the result or expr, where if, so assert expr dot, no, let's actually just do that. So this actually expects a result. This is a result dot result. So this actually takes a result value and, fails if it's not equal to success. So this will check if it is VK result E success. That's the enum for this. Again, instance VK check instance. Honestly, I would prefer this to be just a macro that takes create instance, checks if it's the correct value, and then returns us the main thing. And in fact, this is doable. So let's actually get to that, right? Auto VK check. What's the result? So VK result value of type T, where T we don't know. So actually template type name T. I can actually change this to T. The result if result dot result equals VK result E success, return result dot value, else we will just abort. So here it will be, actually we don't even need to do that. We just make assert here. Don't need to import C assert, but I think it's already imported. Actually we'll do a thing, define assert X as assert X. I know this sounds pointless. Why are we re-implementing assert? Oh, small, capital X. Or condition, right? Why are we redefining it? But this allows us to just remove it later if we need to. Not that this assert should ever be removed. Still. So instead of doing that, we can just put this all in one line. So VK check and we're done, right? This instance is our own instance. If instance creation fails, there's nothing we can do because, it has failed. Some of these errors are not recoverable at all. At some point, we might want to come back to this and fix it in a way that allows us to at least return that, hey, Vulkan instance creation has failed, and therefore we shall, move on to actually not to using something else. But since I'm not caring of using anything but Vulkan, I don't care if it fails or not. And we can come back to this later and change how VK check works, right? And we can still throw exceptions there. Moving on. So once instance has been created, it's incorrect because we don't have everything integrated. So I need an SDL window. Hmm. I don't have SDL included yet. Stack include SDL 3 SDL.h. Okay. So that lets me have an SDL window. SDL init. So the first things we need to do is init. And inside init, we need to actually create video, initialize all the subsystems, such as video and input, which are two things we will need. So input in this case is a keyboard input. Oh, in keyboard events, we will need events. Okay, we later on involve things like audio and all, but right now we don't care about it. SDL quit, it'll just quit everything, right? Now SDL window, SDL create window. Title of the window is Blaze Test. Width is width. Height is height. SDL window flags is SDL window flags. SDL window. You can do full screen if you want, but we're not going to, so window flag is 0. Width and height, let's const dxpr un 32t. Width equals 1280. So we're going to do 720p. Okay, so that creates us the window. No problems so far. SDL destroy window. And we pass the window in here. Create window will return us the window. So that goes like this. We can make it all in one line, right? We're not using old school C. Now, build solution. So far so good. Run SDL 3DLL was not found. Ain't that lovely? We need to. What do we actually need to do for SDL 3DLL? Normally I use GNFW, but here I'm just going to use this SDL 3DLL from VCPKG, because that's the package manager we're using. Truth. You can see the whole documentation contains everything we will need. Make the window usable with the Vulkan interface, so we will have to do that in the flags. Perfect. However, I still need to figure out how to link it. So we will need this. It's not a default feature, as you see. So SGL3 Vulkan. This doesn't work like that particularly. I need to actually add the feature using a separate method. Yeah, I'm not coming in with some preparation, yes. This is more or less me winging it. I was going to switch to GNFW because why not? Why should we be stuck to a specific entry? Baseline doesn't contain a port for GLFW because it's called GLFW3. I'll at some point find out how to use SDN and replace it because it comes with audio and everything, which is quite nice to have normally. There we go. Right? GLFW is right there. SDL3 has an issue here. GLFW slash GLFW3. GLFW comes with OpenGL predefined, so we need to actually say GLFW no API. Welcome guide. We don't want GLFW include welcome. So we're gonna go back. Let's go context. So unfindable. Oof. We see PKG and features. Yeah, it's like this. Since I can't figure that, I might as well go back to SDL. Don't care about this. Remove features. This is not a dictionary. Name feature is, let's verify, right? Name is STL3. Features is, it contains Vulkan. Okay, please. We remove that. Can go back to STL3. STL touch build solution. It will reinstantiate itself. Meantime, let's look at link to STL3 Windows PC PKG. Okay, that seemed to be fine. But running will probably still have an issue. SDL3 did not, not be fun. This is still rebuild solution. Let it work itself out. Why not? Let's learn from Medium. They all use CMake. README Windows. PC. Nothing with PC package. Video. Enjoy the feed. Again. on by default. We're not going to use that because, no, actually, we do need to use it, I think. But first question is, how do we actually get the DLL to work? VC package, is there a static option? Nope. All right. Project settings, organization. It's not actually selected the project. How's it? Yeah. Linker. Okay, good. Visual Studio link STL TLS. Okay, wiki how? Why not? Additional link directories. Additional link directories. New find it, VC package install, VC package in bin, nope, lib, config, nope. None of these are, I mean, yeah, these are open directories, which is not exactly what I need. Yeah, that actually tells me what I want. So this is CMake source files because we went into the wrong place. This is on share. So bin sdl3.dll is right there. So X Windows bin, select folder, okay, apply, okay, let's check this. Nope, exception thrown, why? Dispatch loader static has thrown the exception. Okay, one step back. Because we don't have a dispatch loader. Vulkan, and we have it open here. QSPP, dispatch. Quickly load it. Rather than one, first thing, just helping out a minute. So, we change PP dispatch loader dynamic. Go back to this. Stop this. So macros are used quite a bit in a lot of C++ to conditionally change behaviors of code. One failed, link unresolved. Dispatch loader dynamic is unresolved because we need to also say dispatch loader dynamic storage, which is this one, default dispatch loader dynamic storage. We can look at the end here. Doesn't particularly matter. So this macro more or less expands to the entire dispatch loader dynamic that Vulkan will use. Abort has been called because instance creation has failed because it requires version 1.0. Well, clean solution. Why is this still stuck? Cannot resolve. STL3, 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 STL3. Okay, let's not go too crazy. Include STL3. The autocomplete is broken. Build solution again. For such follow directory, remove it. Build solution again. Now it should be fine, but the project analysis definitely is not. Yes, forgot we have to fix that. So it needs instance 1.0, but we already have API version 1.3. So a probable problem is the window Vulkan is loading something within SDN itself instead of us doing anything. No, that is not it. This is definitely us. It requires VK version 1.0, but we have VK version 1.0. Here version 1.0, then let's try this. Condition info properly assigned there. The solution. Well, still on. All right, let's figure out what is happening here. We will actually even comment out SDL because who knows, perhaps SDL is causing troubles for us. Yep. It definitely is here. It means that is so we can check header version. So hit the debug assert there, restart the whole thing. We can get header version. Header version is 304. That doesn't mean anything because 304 is the output after you actually do all of the computation required. Okay, header version just has to be greater than, we just go F12. 304, that is precisely the version we have. Header version complete, API version 1. Okay, header version is 304, yes, and 14. Okay. Step, a step. Okay, yes. I know what the problem is. It is entirely my fault. Another thing you need to do. So just like Volk requires us to do a VK init, VK detail, dispatch, loader dynamic init. The loader dynamic has to be initialized. You can see it's right there, default loader dynamic. Needs to be initialized because otherwise it doesn't have the Vulkan functions loaded. These are all function pointers at the end of the day. All of these function pointers need to be loaded from the DNLs. Oh, that was not the issue. That was not the issue. Okay, let's default dispatcher.init. Perhaps that is a little low. That too is not the issue. We can have our own dynamic loader. It needs to do this. Route address. Initialize wiki instance. So yeah, this also needs to be done, set up by us. I think SDN lets us do that. So at least GLFW has hooks for it. We can check if SDL does or not. So that comes from SDL Vulkan. It is completely is not able to fix it. So I'm going to turn it off and on again, as is anything in Visual Studio. or really life there. SDL, SDL, Vulkan, Rock, SDL, Vulkan, get VK, get Crocodrus. Yes, perhaps it's not the best idea to take things out of context like this and instead, mm, instead actually read what they said. But I'm a heretic, and I'm going to act like one. SDL is caps. On Windows, it doesn't matter because Windows can act quite case insensitive, but there it goes. Gives us an SDL function pointer of type vk void function for this, while their SDL function pointer is get instance proc address. Yeah, of course. You don't call this function. Just of no, that is in fact getting us the address. And this one is we can just cast it. It will ask us to make it a static cast or reinterpret cast, so we're gonna do reinterpret. Very unsafe, but we're gonna test it out. We can actually go and check this. Vulkan get instance proc address. That's not SDL. I'm pouting. You can't see it, but I'm pouting. Unsafe cast, of course it is. SDL Vulkan get returns the function pointer or null on failure. Vulkan load library or creating SDL window with SDL window Vulkan flat. We have done that. So we just need to do that and we need to cast it just as this one. This is an unsafe conversion, may cause my program to fail. Good thing warnings are not errors in us case. Well, that is still not helping us. Because we did a unit already. Nope. Hmm. Interesting, isn't it? You use the C++ version, which is supposed to work, kind of like just work. Instead, it causes us a lot of pain. Visual Studio is pretty good, normally quite useful. But the build system in Visual Studio is completely graphical, which can be a bit problematic if you're used to something like CMake, which I am, where you can just read everything in a single text file, you know. We have to go through this. We have to figure out what in the world am I supposed to do here. Get instance proc, dynamic loader. Again, don't need to necessarily do all of that. If we don't statically load it, we can still use dynamic loader and it should work. Did I have window Vulkan? Yes. Did I create the window? Yes. Before I did the constructor? Yes. That's not good code there, but we will get by. We can debug this. Let's check it out. Okay, next step. It has some function that is loaded from vulkan1.dll, which is good. It inits. We continue, retry, recheck what's happening here, right? So D is the dispatcher and it does have create instance like that. Okay. So now what's your problem? Because we tried to destroy and it didn't have the functions loaded for destroy. Of course, it did not. We never loaded the instance into it. So debuggers are quite nice. I really like the debugger in Visual Studio. Default dispatcher dot init, and this is all overloaded. So we init the instance and that should actually fix the problem. It should just open and close. There. And we have a nice little debugging thing, but you can see it opened a window. Destroy instance and it has a violation executing something. 3140 destroy instance. It has an issue calling destroy instance. Isn't that lovely? Instance of destroy doesn't work. Let's check what went wrong. So use your own function pointer. Done. Initialize it with instance to get all the other function pointers. Instance, default dispatcher init. Did we do that? Yes, we did. And finally, nothing. It should have some case storage for should be embedded in the DLL. That we don't care because we have our own static storage. This is our executable itself. If I get very frustrated with this, I'll just use C, the C API. Things are simple in C API land. I'm saying this, but once we open the C API, perhaps we'll still find similar issues. If instance destroy, perhaps we move the instances out in the middle. We will also define Vulkan HPP things move exchange. Otherwise, the handles are just copied instead of being exchanged, and moving the Blaze class will actually break things. Do we move anything? Blaze is just constructed blankly there. It shouldn't have an issue like this. We can turn on the validation layers. Hold on, close that. Oops. Vulkan configurator, which will give us the validation layers. Application launcher, this is some old stuff. Repos, Blaze, 1x86 debug Blaze, launch, terminate. We will close it. Still all the exception, the errors and all of that. There. Okay. Nothing. If destroy instance is still not completely properly loaded, it seems. Exception thrown there, access violation, executing location. Effectively, what this is telling us is this function here is not a valid function or it's not in the valid location, but the memory range seems to be reasonable. So I don't see why it isn't in the right place. Okay, that's it. I'm abandoning Vulkan HPP. We will use Volk. We'll continue, move back to the C API. Um, Volk.edge. It should link normally, quite basically linked. Define, recreate check, and result, and do an assert. What should it be? The assert. Check, assert, yeah, it's a result equals VK result. Actually, success is one of those exceptions which just does this. And result should be in places because we can have something there which is not, right? Vulk initialize. It's a meta loader, so we don't actually need the SDL window Vulkan anymore. Though I think for surface creation we don't need it. We'll come to that when we actually move it. And let's remove this. Since we're using the C API, we're going to work with it in CLang, right? So remove STL for now. Volt initialize followed by volt finalize. So that is a volt pair. We now need to load the instance. So volt initialize will automatically do the P function loading for us. Let's check volt meta loader right there. Basic usage, volt initialize, and then load instance. We create instance create info. So that's create info, which we don't have right now, but we'll get there. Null pointer for callbacks. We don't have any callbacks in instance here. We're gonna wrap this up with vk check. And we will have the vk instance. Instance t pointer is an instance. It's just type def. That's done. Okay, instance create info. Oops. Dot des. The autocomplete is all over the place right now. What is wrong with this? Cannot resolve assert. Yeah, VKHPP included assert. Now we don't have it, so we need to include it ourselves. See assert. That works. Create info dot designated initializations. It doesn't have it. We're gonna repeat this. We've already done this. The next equals null PTR. Flags are 0. We don't have any flags here. App info, which will fill up later. Enable layer count 0. Again, I forgot to add the designations there. We cannot mix the two. The application info equals app info. I can't even see how far it has gotten. Enabled app. Enabled layer counts. Enabled layer. You know what? I'm gonna do it with the Vulkan specification. Normally, this is how you tend to use it. Initialization instances, enumerate instance version. So this is actually how you should do it with enumerate instance version, but we're just going to go here, right? Instance create info is what we're doing. These are the fields we want. Oops, not the right thing. Uh, so we know those. Current JC. So enable layer count. People on the C++ land actually did not used to use this designated initialization because it's a C++ 20 feature. But since I am on C++23 now, we can use this. How much time do we have in today's stream? I know it was kind of meandering, trying to fix issues that shouldn't have existed in the first place. We can deal with it. Once the initial setup of Vulkan and everything is done, things get pretty breezy. Again, why is the autocomplete of this not working? VK structure type location info. Next equals null pointer. Application name is B. Application name was test. Application version equals VJMate API version 0, 1, no, 0, 0, 1, 0. P engine name equals Blaze, just the engine name because why not, right? Engine version. VJMate. I'm gonna be lazy there. Copy paste. Finally, API version. So this one is Vulkan 1.3. It's currently quite well supported, so why not? What's your problem? Designated initialization is a C++20 only accept. Okay, but we are in C++20, aren't we? 23. So it's not a 23 feature. What are you talking about? Uh, and yeah, instance has been created. We will Volk load instance, and then vk destroy instance for instance again. No pointer on the callbacks. Those callbacks are only to tell us what the memory usage is. It doesn't actually change anything with respect to how the memory allocation happens. Let's see if this works. It has successfully loaded and exited. Precisely what we would like. Okay, so let's do that. Mm, we pause it right there. Continue and it closes itself. Okay, so far so low. So far so good. No issues yet. Once instance has to be created, we do need some extensions. So SDL get for get instance except extensions right there. And that will give us instance extension count. And it will also give us instance extensions. Which is a constant const that's car const const is just the strings, but this is a pointer to that, and that's also a constant pointer. Okay. And for int, so instance count is an int, uint32. Uint32. Here's from SDL. Uint32t instance extension count as the actual spelling of extension count. That gives us how many extensions there are. So enabled extension counts is instance extension count. Enabled extension names is instance extensions. Build solution. Succeeded. No problems. Debugger and close. No problems, right? So instance has been loaded. Next thing we can do is to create a surface. So we can create surface. Those are headless surface. Actually, we can do this as STL. Software industry, learn basic stuff, HTML, CSS, JS. What should I learn next? Any guidance? Depends. What kind of software do you want to do? If you want to do game dev, well, C, C++, or Rust if you want to be modern. If you want to go into web development, you should start learning a few more frameworks that are useful. Not like the new frameworks like Vue.js and all, but old school Angular and React, because that's where the money is right now. Most of the big industries use that. Anyway, yeah, it really depends on what you want to do. Moving on. STL Vulkan create surface right there. Takes an SDL window, which is the window we already created. It takes the instance, which we have. Allocation callbacks, just a null pointer. VK surface, KHR surface, which is the surface. And it returns a Boolean. So that's actually just an assert. Here we do VK surface, right? It's a KHR, which means not all, it's an extension by Chronos, but not all Vulkan devices need to support it. Because if you have an embedded system or a pure compute system, you will end up with something that doesn't need it. Destroy surface, window, instance. No, it just takes instance actually. Instance, surface, and null pointer because we don't have any requirement for anything else. How to learn and master programming languages. Program. Nothing else. You just program. You start off with small projects and then you keep getting larger and larger with it. One of the possible things you can do is if you want to do graphics, because I mean, you're on a graphics stream, right? Learn ray tracing in one weekend. I think it's called just ray tracing in one weekend. It's a sequence of 3 books. So ray tracing in one weekend, ray tracing the next week, and ray tracing the rest of your life, right? Pick up whatever programming language you choose and then program the entire ray tracer in that language. over time, you will actually learn what is good, what is not, and keep refactoring, keep rewriting the thing. Don't hesitate with that. And you learn quite a few things, right? Do other projects as well. So for web, keep making websites and different stuff. Try learning backend and make a full stack website and all of that. And for games, you can always clone games, make another Flappy Bird, make Tic-Tac-Toe, make Asteroid. Take games that already exist, small, simple games without too much graphics, and try to implement them yourself. Okay, moving on. Create surface, destroy surface. We have that. We can just LTL should quit. Window. Wait, what does should quit need? Init state. No, that's not what we want. STL. Window. If pump events. The pump events actually takes all the events from things into SDL zone memory. SDL event. So here we'll actually do a bool is running equals true. While is running. It's just not constant. It shouldn't be considered constant. STL get event. Nope. Let's check how to check if an SDL event has to quit. SDL quit. Quit event. Still. Oh yeah, it's poll events. SDL poll event SDL event. So this is a polling system. For each of these events, we will actually keep doing a while loop on this. So that's poll event is not null, then it. So here we'll do while SDL poll event. So we'll keep polling it. Switch event dot type equals SDL event quit. So if the type is quit, then is running equals false and a. So this has a Boolean value. Of course it does. Case still event quit. Break default. I'll come to your question in a second. Do nothing, right? Default literally does nothing in this particular case. Switch. So it breaks out of the while. No, it breaks out of the switch and it keeps going. Is running is false. After all the events have been computed, it will quit. So that is our window. And it quits. Great. So we have a window going. First, I want to take web dev. It's easy to take a job, then learn or build some. I'm from India. Okay. My suggestion is not suggestion, my understanding of. Actually, I'm done for today. We've created a surface, we've created an instance, we've created a window. We'll get to the device tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but whenever the next stream is. So I'll just get a Q&A. Web dev, it's easy to take a job. I don't agree. I don't think web dev is enough. As in, yes, web dev is easy. There is some demand for it, but every junior developer has kind of the same idea that it's easy to get into web dev. So the competition is insane, right? If you're not from a tier 1 school, right, it's going to be hard for you to get a job into big companies for web dev especially. And for smaller places, well, is the pay good enough for you? is the question, right? A lot of companies don't pay very well for web dev job. My suggestion again is to do web dev. Sure, if you like doing web dev, do it, right? But also learn how to do other kind of things, have more skills if you have time, since I'm understanding you're new in the industry and you don't have, like, you're not advanced in age, I think. I don't know, I'm making an assumption here. If you are, then okay. If you're not, and if you have a lot of free time available to you that you can use for projects and stuff, experiment, learn as much as you can, right? I ended up with graphics, but I did web dev, ML, uh, networking, systems programming, operating systems, all of that. So at the end of the day, I prefer doing graphics. And you need to figure out what you want to do. Currently, if you take real life, like not something I'm doing for YouTube, I'm doing research. And it's very fun, right? It's just you cannot just do one thing and expect to make it anymore. You have to have a few skills and be able to show competence in multiple fields nowadays. Not fields, but like just subtopics within computer science, within programming. Okay. That's kind of the end of the stream for today. We will be returning soon, possibly around the same time or a little later on Saturday or Sunday. See you guys. Thanks for joining in.